everyone, and welcome. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. It's Tuesday evening, May 11th here, and tonight we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Thomas Likeness in Edmonton, Alberta.
Canada can look forward to a one-dose summer.
JP Era in Sacramento reports about Cal Expo to remain as a super vaccination site. Then Carlo Valdez in Union Township reports about a New Jersey legislation improving notifications on lead levels in drinking water. Then we'll head to North Hills, California with Henri Rayo-Tutar.
Southern California nappers are wanted for a sleep experiment.
For today's business news, Bobby Soriano reports about the pipeline shutdown bringing worries of rising gas prices and crippling cyberattacks. Then for EBC Sports, EJ Gonzalez in Alexandria, Virginia.
Russell Westbrook sets a new NBA record for triple-doubles.
Also joining us tonight is Eliza Gonzalez-Manglikmont in Washington, D.C.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention launches the Still Going Strong anti-injury campaign for older adults.
Plus, for tonight's roundtable, caring for our older family members and friends. Our coverage begins now. The United States urges both Israel and the Palestinians to avoid deeply lamentable civilian deaths after airstrikes by the Jewish state in response to rocket fire in Gaza.
The United States certainly stands by the principle that civilians should not, that any loss of civilian life is deeply lamentable, whether that is a Palestinian life or an Israeli life. That is why we've continued to call on calm, continued to call on all sides to de-escalate and to exercise restraint in their actions.
State Department spokesman Ned Price says Israel does have a right to defend itself. He says reports of civilian deaths are regrettable and must be put to a stop. Meanwhile, Colombia's human rights ombudsman said Tuesday at least 42 people have been killed in near-daily protests against the government of President Iván Duque since April 28. The ombudsman's office says all but one, a member of the armed forces, were civilians. The updated toll made these the bloodiest demonstrations since Colombia signed a peace agreement with the FARC guerrilla group in 2016 to end decades of civil war. It is lower than the 47 deaths reported by NGOs, who claim at least 39 were a direct result of police violence. The Defense Ministry reports 849 police officers injured in clashes, 12 by gunfire, and has not updated the number of civilians wounded since May 3rd, when it stood at 306. Student leader Jennifer Pedraza accuses Duque's government of being complacent about the excessive use of public force and joins a call for fresh protests on Wednesday. The protests, initially against a proposed tax reform, soon morphs into a broader demonstration of anti-government sentiment in a country battling ongoing violence and economic hardship made worse by the coronavirus epidemic. The tax reform bill has been withdrawn, but the protests continue despite a forceful response criticized by the international community. Families and NGOs announced 2 protesters who sustained critical injuries during clashes have died in hospital. On Twitter, Duque expresses sympathy after the death of 37-year-old Lucas Villa, who was shot several times during a peaceful march in Pereira, Western Colombia. The president urges those responsible to face the full weight of the law. The other was 20-year-old Alejandro Zapata, who, an NGO says, was gravely injured by anti-riot police during a demonstration in Bogota. Now for today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, May 11th, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now over 159 million. The top 3 on the list of countries with recorded cases are the U.S. with more than 32.7 million, India more than 22.9 million, and Brazil with more than 15.2 million. The virus has now claimed more than 3,308,000 lives worldwide. The top 3 countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are the U.S., with over 582,000, Brazil with more than 423,000, and India with over 249,000. Now for some more COVID-related news, the top U.S. pandemic advisor, Anthony Fauci, says President Joe Biden's goal to vaccinate 70% of U.S. adults with at least one COVID-19 shot by July 4th is attainable, while testifying before the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. Take a look.
And so when the president makes the goal of 70% of adults receiving at least one vaccine by the 4th of July, we believe that that is an attainable goal. The reason we feel it's important is that I believe that we are about at that critical turning point when we get a certain percentage. We don't know exactly what it is, but clearly the majority of individuals in the country vaccinated, we will see a sharp turning point and a marked diminution in cases. And so, as I said the last time I testified before you, we are in a race between the vaccine and the virus. If left to its own devices, will continue to surge. Based on experience thus far in this country and globally, I feel confident that if we continue to vaccinate people at the rate that we're doing, that we will very soon have a situation where we will have so few infections in this country, we will begin to return to the normality that all of us desire so much.
During the hearing, the head of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, Rochelle Walensky, emphasizes the importance for children to get the vaccine.
I would encourage all parents to get their children vaccinated. I know many parents are enthusiastic and have been texting me, can't wait to get their children vaccinated. I recognize that some parents want to sort of see how it goes first, but I am encouraging all parents to get their children vaccinated. Some parents won't want to be first, but I'm also encouraging children to ask for the vaccine. I have a 16-year-old myself, and I can tell you he wanted to get the vaccine. He wants his life back. These kids want to go back to school. They want to go back to the things they love.
Meanwhile, David Kessler, the head of U.S. President Joe Biden's COVID-19 response team, says it is absolutely essential that the U.S. begins sharing vaccine doses with the rest of the world.
Fourth, it is absolutely essential that we begin sharing doses made in the United States with the rest of the world. Supplying other nations with vaccines is not just the right thing to do for life-saving humanitarian purposes. It is also in the best interest of the United States to mitigate the risk of viral evolution. The current vaccine supply exceeds demand. Nothing is more important than achieving the president's goal of having 70% of adults with at least one shot by July 4th. The long-term fate of many of our communities depends on getting people vaccinated.
Logistics workers and crew at Helsinki Airport load oxygen tanks and ventilators onto a cargo plane bound for Delhi under an EU-wide civil protection scheme. Medical supplies from Finland, Germany, and Greece are due to arrive in the Indian capital on Wednesday evening as the country's health service buckles under the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. A total of 18 European Union member states have pledged medical aid to India, while new shipments are also being prepared to go to Nepal and Ecuador, where the COVID-19 pandemic is also spreading rapidly.
The most heaviest load today is the oxygen, medicine oxygen bottles from Finland and Greece. Altogether, we have more than 600 gas bottles on board. And also we have medical ventilators from Germany, 176 pieces of them. We are now busy preparing another shipment, 185 cubic meters of the personal protective equipment to Nepal. So, yes, I can tell you that we are ready to support other countries and show the solidarity.
Up next, reports from Edmonton, Alberta, Sacramento, California, and New Jersey. Eagle News America continues. Stay with us.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Agila Pilipinas, a 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Agila Probinsya. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to explain our help outdoor.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo in Atlanta. In Canada, we have some good news awaiting the country this summer, if all goes well as planned. And Alberta Bureau Chief Thomas Likeness tells us what residents there should look forward to. Thomas.
Well, thanks, Philip. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, well, he had his happy face on this morning when he spoke to reporters about the pandemic. Trudeau peered into his crystal ball, and this is what he saw.
A summer in which the vast majority of Canadians have received one dose, with caseloads down across the country, will allow us to gather and have barbecues with friends. We'll still have to be careful in a lot of different ways, but it will be a slightly better summer. That's why we're talking about a one-dose summer.
Sounds optimistic, a one-dose summer. Now, just as background, most of Canada is still under varying degrees of lockdown right now because of high COVID case numbers. Trudeau, though, is basing his optimism on two things taking place.
First, restrictions need to remain in place until cases go way down with more screening, testing, and contact tracing. We need to successfully limit community transmission. Second, as Dr. Tam said, at least 75% of Canadians need to have received their first shots.
Now, that second point, having enough people immunized, well, that's one that some people may be skeptical about. It's no secret that Canada has had supply problems and difficulty getting enough vaccines to stock our medicine cabinets. So, Mr. Prime Minister, are there enough inoculants on the way to jab enough arms to allow us to take the exit to normality and get off this pandemic freeway?
By summer, we'll have enough vaccines so that every eligible Canadian will have gotten their first dose. And by September, as we've been saying for months, we'll have enough doses for every Canadian to be fully vaccinated.
Sounds good if all goes to plan. You know, I, for one, could use a dose of normality to go with my second dose of the vaccine. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Thomas. And I definitely agree with you there. I think all of us are ready for that dose of normality. But when it comes to doses of the vaccine, how are people feeling there in your area about immunization? Is there a lot of hesitancy?
Well, across Canada, about 80% of those who have been asked in surveys say they have been or plan to be vaccinated as soon as it's their turn. The bad news in my province, Alberta, it's a bit of a problem. You see, there's that hardcore 15% who say under no circumstances do they want to be immunized. Then there's another 13% who say no, I don't think so. I probably won't take the vaccine. So that really does present a problem for immunity here. As well, people are somewhat hesitant about viral vector vaccines such as AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. There's a risk of rare blood clots with those. Our supply of AstraZeneca is just about used up. And as a matter of fact, in Alberta, nobody will get a first dose anymore. What we have left will be used for second doses for those who've been immunized with it. But there's plenty of Pfizer and Moderna on the way. Overall, about 40% of Canadians have received at least one dose of the vaccine so far. Philip?
Thanks, Thomas, for that update. Now, what about vaccine passports? I hear that the Prime Minister mentioned those again.
Yes, Philip. At his news conference this morning, Prime Minister Trudeau was asked about using proof of vaccination for certain things. And Trudeau says, it could be used to encourage people to get immunized. He says, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm going to give you his exact words. When politicians talk about these things, you kind of have to read the political tea leaves, as it were. So I'm going to give you his exact words to see what you can distill out of it. Trudeau said anything we can do to encourage people to get vaccinated is going to be important. And that's where the idea of proof of vaccination for different services or better access is something to look at. But how seriously the government will look at it, that remains to be seen. Although a majority of Canadians support proof of vaccination for international travel, that support drops dramatically when it comes to getting vaccine certificates to get services from a business or maybe gain access to a concert or a sporting event. But an interesting ethical debate. Philip?
Thanks, Thomas. And I know, I think across the world, vaccine passports are a controversial subject, right? And speaking of controversial subjects, I also hear that doctors in British Columbia are actually warning about posting controversial opinions about COVID on social media. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's happening there?
Yes, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Philip, in British Columbia, that's the licensing body for doctors. They're concerned about the amount of misinformation being spread about the pandemic. And it says it's actually received reports about some doctors straying from the party line on COVID. Some of the things it's concerned about is the anti-vaccine stance. Opposition to masking, physical distancing and lockdowns, as well as prescribing unproven treatments for COVID. And what it said is basically people put a lot of trust in what a doctor says so that, all right, you as a doctor have to be careful what you say because people are going to believe it. And that trust is, you put doctor in front of a person's name, that trust is implicit, even though they may not be an expert in that particular field of medicine. Because they're a doctor, people trust them. And basically the college is saying if you promote this nonsense, you're going to face disciplinary action. So govern yourself accordingly. Philip?
Well, thank you so much for that, Thomas. Continue to stay safe there. And thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Philip, and you take care.
Thank you. In California, there's a place that is still needed as a mass vaccination site. So the state fair, funnel cakes, and all that goes along with it might have to wait. In Sacramento, Eagle News correspondent JP Era tells us more.
Summertime in Sacramento usually brings upon the excitement of going to the California State Fair at Cal Expo. The California State Fair usually takes place at Cal Expo here in Sacramento starting in July. Although many people have already been vaccinated and more people are being vaccinated, organizers have postponed the opening of the State Fair to allow Cal Expo to remain as a mass vaccination site. Cal Expo has played a major role throughout the duration of the pandemic. It was first used as the largest COVID testing site at the beginning of the pandemic, testing thousands of people each day. When vaccines were being distributed, it then acted as the largest vaccination site, able to vaccinate thousands of people each day. The Cal Expo site is still planned to be a mass vaccination site through September of this year. Due to this, the state fair that usually happens in July will be postponed, and organizers are hopeful that some kind of fair will be held later this year. With almost thousands of people being vaccinated each day, the CalExpo site is the largest vaccination site in Sacramento. This mass vaccination site has made a tremendous impact in vaccinating people of the Sacramento region and in the fight towards the end of this pandemic. With CalExpo remaining as a vaccination site, more and more people will be able to receive a vaccine. It is the hope that with more people being vaccinated, the sooner the community can host many more events. Although the fair gives people the opportunity to explore, have fun, and gather with family and friends, the goal of this plan is to prioritize the community's recovery. As many more people are receiving their vaccines, the light at the end of the tunnel is getting closer. CalExpo's goal is one with the state to help reopen by June by utilizing every resource they have to continue the fight in ending COVID-19. In Sacramento, JP Era, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
In New Jersey, the governor signs a legislation that aims to improve notification of lead levels in the state's drinking water. Bureau Chief Carlo Valdez reports.
Thanks, Philip. Governor Murphy signed a legislation that will require public water systems to provide notice of elevated lead levels in drinking water to customers and local officials, and also to require landlords to advise tenants of elevated lead levels. Governor Murphy said, "We must continue to proactive action to protect our communities from the dangers of lead exposure. This legislation will ensure that community members are aware of the levels of lead in their drinking water, a critical step toward protecting our children and families from the dangers of lead exposure." And as for coronavirus stats and numbers, New Jersey reports of 858 new positive PCR tests, pushing the total to 881,171. Sadly, New Jersey is reporting 31 new confirmed deaths, pushing the total to 23,201 lives lost. In Union Township, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Carlo. Still to come, an update from North Hills, California, business news, and ABC Sports. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Puso ko'y wasak at ngayon ay naghihirap. Dusa ay walang katulad at ikaw pa rin ang hanap. Di ba sabi mo habang buhay tayo?
Hello po mga idol, ako nga pala po si JC Regino. Inabangan niyo po ako sa Letters and Music ngayong Sabado, May 15, 1-2 p.m. Dito lang po sa Net 25. Kita-kits po tayo.
Nawala nang tayo. Nawala nang tayo.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Philip Toledo. A few questions to several of our viewers today. Are you a resident of Southern California? Are you 18 years or older? And do you love to sleep? Well, here's your chance to get paid for taking a nap. Eagle News correspondent Andre Rayo Tutar has all of the details. Andre, what can you tell us?
Thank you, Philip. Calling all SoCal sleep lovers, finally. A job where you can get paid to sleep. No, you're not dreaming. This opportunity is very real. EachNight.com is hiring a team of 5 nap reviewers. These 5 nap reviewers will be paid $50 per nap or $1,500 per month to take a nap every day for 30 days straight and record their experiences. All applicants interested in this opportunity must be 18 years or older to apply and must do so by May 31st. According to eachnight.com, over the course of 30 days, their dedicated nappers will be required to take part in a variety of experiments testing out theories such as the best nap duration for feeling refreshed, the effects of napping on overall levels of fatigue, and the effects of napping on memory, motivation, and productivity. The individuals will be required to take part in a video call before and after each experiment to ensure they understand their task fully and to complete a verbal questionnaire detailing their experiences and results. In return for their participation, each nap reviewer will receive a payment of $1,500 at the end of the testing period. Avid nappers interested in this opportunity can apply online at eachnight.com. In Panorama City, California, on review to Tar Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Right now, are there any tips available for good napping?
There actually are. On eachnight.com, they actually give you some tips. One of them is in order to gain the full benefits of napping, we should set an alarm so that we don't oversleep, find a quiet place, avoid naps late in the day, and give ourselves enough time to wake up. Philip?
Thanks. Those are definitely good tips. I know that we could all use a good nap now and then. I'm just curious, since we're on the subject, are you someone who takes frequent naps? And when would you say was the last time you took a nap?
I am an avid nap taker, and I did take a nap today. So I do love taking naps.
Well, good deal. Well, I hope if this is an opportunity that you yourself are interested in, you don't sleep on it for too long. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Andre.
Thank you.
Now for today's business news. A spike in gas prices and fears of cyber attacks have customers worried amid a pipeline shutdown. From our business desk, Bobby Soriano tells us more.
Good evening. U.S. markets have closed. Here are your latest business headlines. Concerns over gas prices spiking are worrying consumers in light of an ongoing pipeline shutdown, and has also highlighted concerns about cyber attacks and their effect on national security. A ransomware attack Friday on Colonial Pipeline, operator of the largest fuel network in the U.S., forced the company to shut down deliveries that are typically shipped along the East Coast, from Texas to New Jersey. With the network still shut down as of today, this has led to spot shortages in areas such as Georgia and North Carolina, which typically rely on the Colonial Pipeline network for their fuel supplies. The disruption, in combination with an accelerating demand for gas as families look to head out as pandemic restrictions lift, has led to the national gas price average to approach $3 a gallon, the highest it has been in 6 years. Michael Reagan, Environmental Protection Agency Administrator, reached out to the states most affected by the pipeline disruption, including Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, to assure them that they have been actively monitoring the supply of fuel, and that U.S. regulators would temporarily suspend clean fuel requirements to allow for additional gasoline supplies to reach gas stations hit hardest by the pipeline shutdown. But the shutdown is not only a concern for the energy sector, but to all businesses and any major institution in the world. That is because cyber attacks have continued to grow in number, affecting not just government agencies, but also companies, schools, and hospitals. According to data reported by the Wall Street Journal, ransomware cases, which typically involve hacking a database with sensitive data, and then ransoming said data for cryptocurrency or some other form of untraceable funds, has reached nearly 2,500 reported cases to the FBI in 2020, an increase of 66% compared with the previous year. Cybersecurity experts, analysts, and officials have estimated that ransomware victims have paid criminals at least $350 million in cryptocurrency payments in 2020, and the anonymity of the internet, coupled with lucrative ransoms, have made hackers bolder in their cyber terrorism crimes. Senior officials in the Biden administration have said ransomware is likely the most serious cybersecurity threat to the U.S., and that on its current trajectory, the problem will only get worse in the years ahead. But as the federal government fights to defend national interests against these faceless attackers, it will still fall upon businesses and institutions themselves to make sure that they can maintain the strongest levels of security against this ever-worsening and evolving threat. U.S. markets were in the red today, as concerns over hyperinflation sparked volatility through a broad range of market sectors. Reporting from New York, Bobby Soriano, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
There's good news coming out of Washington. The Wizards' Russell Westbrook just broke a record that NBA fans thought would be impossible. From our Washington, D.C. bureau, EJ Gonzalez has the report. EJ?
Thanks, Philip. That's right. Triple-double. What is that? Well, in basketball, a triple-double is when a player records double digits in 3 different statistical categories, whether that's points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, etc. Well, for almost 50 years, the record for all-time triple-doubles by a single player was held by Oscar Robertson, also known as the Big O, who recorded 181 career triple-doubles. For years, that record stood nearly untouchable, as even the great Magic Johnson ended his career with 138, still over 40 games behind Robertson. Over the last couple of years, one man began breaking triple-double records season after season, and that's now the Washington Wizards' Russell Westbrook. In 2017, Westbrook broke the record for most triple-doubles in a single season. That's 42, a record held previously by, you guessed it, the Big O. The next year, he recorded his 100th career triple-double to join the likes of Jason Kidd, Magic Johnson, and Oscar Robertson again to ever reach that milestone. And last night, Russell Westbrook recorded his 36th triple-double of the season, which is already the franchise record for the Washington Wizards. And on top of that, a culmination of the past seasons has allowed Russell Westbrook to record his 182nd career triple-double, surpassing the record of the Big O, which again, many thought was impossible. Well, NBA management, NBA legends, and even current players recorded a message for Westbrook, congratulating him on this amazing feat. Take a look.
Well, Russell Westbrook, I'm very happy for you. Your family is very proud of you. And I salute you for all your accomplishments in the game of basketball.
Congratulations on passing Oscar Robertson and becoming the NBA's all-time leader in triple-doubles.
What a feat. Incredible. You left me a long time ago, but you're going to go down as Mr. Triple-Double.
It speaks to your relentless work ethic and the all-round skill and passion that you bring to the game every single night.
Congratulations, Russell. What an accomplishment. I've been fortunate enough to coach you your first 7 years of your career. I've seen a lot of work that you put in.
We're so thrilled and honored that you're playing for the Washington Wizards and that you're able to break that record and go into history books in front of our fans.
Russell Record Book, they should call you. Congratulations, what a fantastic feat.
I'm a big fan of yours, man. Congrats for what you've done. Mr. Triple-Double himself.
Love you, man. It's an incredible feat. If someone had to do it, why not you? Impressive, bro. Impressive.
Just an unprecedented run. Sustained excellence over time. You know, just proud of you, proud of the man that you've become.
Russ, what up, Brody? I want to say congratulations on 182 and counting. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it, man. Congratulations.
Well, Oscar Robertson was also known to have averaged a triple-double for the 1961 and 1962 NBA season, which again seemed impossible for another player to ever replicate until Russell Westbrook came along. By the end of this season, Westbrook will, for the 4th time in his career, average a triple-double for an entire season with 22 points, 11.6 rebounds, and 11.5 assists per game. In Alexandria, Virginia, EJ Gonzalez, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, EJ. Now, I'm just curious, how impressive is this record to you?
And to me, I don't know. It's so impressive, man. To impact the game in so many ways, you know, Westbrook has normalized the triple-double. I think a lot of people are taking that for granted, and it's really a tough thing to do to impact the game in so many ways. And as Russell Westbrook himself said, if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. And that's a record, again, that stood for almost 50 years, and there have been many great players to play the game of basketball since then. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Dr. J, many more. I mean, no one has come close to this record. So I don't know if this record honestly will ever be touched again, because amongst active players, you know, the player closest to 182 triple doubles is the great LeBron James, who has only 99 right now. And it's going to be a long time, if ever, that we'll see another player like Russell Westbrook who can impact the game in so many ways, just like he's done throughout his entire career.
Absolutely, EJ. Well, thank you for that perspective. And I guess to bring it a little bit closer to home for you, I know you've been known to play a little basketball yourself here and there. How many triple doubles have you accomplished?
If you count turnovers, probably I could probably get a little bit closer, but not honestly, never in my life. And I also play video games. And I don't think I've ever gotten a triple-double in a video game. Again, just so impossible to do, honestly. Maybe I'm just not good at video games. But, I mean, I think it's hard to even do it in a video game. This guy's doing it in real life with the top players in the world. And he's making it look so easy and normal. I mean, again, Russell Westbrook is just amazing. I'm definitely happy for him, and definitely will go down as one of the top point guards ever to play the game.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations to him, and thank you, EJ, for joining us this evening.
Thanks, Philip.
Now, up next, we'll have a report from Washington, and then tonight's roundtable about caring for our older family members and friends. Eagle News America will return shortly. Stay with us.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
Growing older and wiser should be fun, but also injury-free. And to keep it this way, one has to know how to stay away from accidents. To tell us more about the CDC's new campaign aimed at helping older adults stay injury-free, BBC's Eliza Gonzalez-Manglikmot joins us tonight. Eliza?
Thanks, Philip. A great Tuesday evening to you and a safe Wednesday morning to our friends on the other side of the globe. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, launches Still Going Strong. Still Going Strong, it is a national campaign that brings attention to ways older adults can age without injury. So when we say older adults, they are those who belong to the age 65 and above. Now, this campaign raises awareness about the leading causes of unintentional injuries and deaths in older adults. Still Going Strong aims to encourage older adults to continue pursuing their favorite hobbies and engaging in their day-to-day activities while arming them and their caregivers with information about steps in preventing injuries that disproportionately impact the population. Now, the causes of these injuries are, number 1, falls. Number 2, motor vehicle crashes. And number 3, traumatic brain injury, or what we call TBI. Now, Dr. Deborah Oury, the director of CDC's National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, says experiencing injuries doesn't have to be a normal part of aging. Many injuries that are common in older adults can be prevented. Now, she says injuries and deaths from falls and motor vehicle crashes are alarmingly increasing in older adults. According to Dr. Oury, the Still Going Strong campaign will help inform people about simple steps that can be done to prevent injuries and their lasting effects. And she is not excusing anyone. She says everyone has a role: older adults, caregivers, loved ones, and healthcare providers. Now, according to a new CDC report in the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, older adults had over 2.4 million emergency department or ED visits and 700,000 hospitalizations related to injuries from falls, motor vehicle crashes, opioid overdoses, and self-harm in 2018. Now, unintentional falls accounted for over 90% of these ED visits and hospitalizations. Falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries in older adults. Now, to give us a clearer picture of why this is the number one cause of injuries, imagine an older adult falls every second of the day. That's accounting for over 36 million falls each year. Now, of those falls, 1 out of every 5 causes a serious injury, such as broken bones or a head injury. After an older adult falls, their chances of falling again and getting injured increases. Now, according to CDC, older adults account for over 46 million licensed drivers in the country, or 1 in 5 drivers. Although driving, it does help older adults stay independent, the risk of being injured or killed in a motor vehicle crash unfortunately increases as people age. Now, every day, there are 700 older adults injured in a motor vehicle crash, and 22 of these die because of their injuries. Now, let's talk about traumatic brain injury, or TBI. Falls and motor vehicle crashes are common causes of TBI in older adults. TBI is a major cause of death and disability, and those who survive a TBI can face effects that last a few days or worse, the rest of their lives. Now, we don't want to be full of doom and gloom tonight. On the bright side, people can age gracefully, as Philip said, but without injury. Now, over 10,000 people in America turn 65 every day. Now, older adults are more active and mobile than ever, but an injury from a fall or a motor vehicle crash can decrease their independence. Now, this campaign that the CDC launched gives older adults and their caregivers a chance to understand these common injuries that happen as people age and what can be done to prevent them. Older adults and their caregivers can take simple steps to prevent injuries from falls or car crashes. One of the most important things older adults can do is talk to their healthcare providers, including general practitioners, specialists, physical therapists, and pharmacists. Now, learn more about the Still Going Strong campaign at cdc.gov/Still Going Strong. Now, currently, it is 63 degrees Fahrenheit or 17 degrees Celsius in the nation's capital. In Washington, Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Philip.
Thanks, Liza. Now, this campaign, although it's a national or maybe even a global nature, it's going to initially focus on certain states, I understand. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
You're correct, Philip. According to CDC, the Still Going Strong campaign will initially focus ads in metro and rural markets in 4 states. Those are Maine, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Wisconsin. Now, these states were selected for their incidence of older adult falls, fall injuries, motor vehicle crashes, and deaths caused by injuries. Now, the campaign will have national reach through digital and social media and partner efforts. Philip?
Now, you also talked about the common injuries that affect people as they age, and those could even be causes of death as well. What are the top 10 causes of death among older adults?
Very nice question, Philip. Now, according to the CDC, number 1 is still heart disease. Second comes cancer. Third is chronic lower respiratory disease. Fourth, stroke. Fifth is Alzheimer's. Sixth is diabetes. Seventh, like what we've discussed earlier, unintentional injury. These are falls or motor vehicle traffic. Eighth is kidney disease. Ninth is influenza and pneumonia. And number 10 is Parkinson's disease. Philip?
Thanks, Eliza. And, this is a very, timely report or timely, program that's coming out, particularly, over the last year or so of the pandemic. We have had a lot of focus on our older family members or older friends in our society, right? Because not only, do we have these causes of injury and, unfortunately death, but, they're also the ones that are most at risk from COVID-19. So as we transition into our roundtable tonight, and we want to talk a little bit about how do we care for our elders? How do we care for our older family members, friends? It might be our parents, it might be our grandparents, people that we know from church or school or whoever it may be. And so why don't we just open it up and maybe we'll ask Thomas, in Canada there, is there anything you can share with us about how in your life maybe you've shown care for someone who's older than you?
Well, I actually found myself in the position of being the caregiver for both my mother and my disabled brother, who's about a year older than I am. But, as my mother aged, the dementia set in, and we were able to care for her right up until about 2 months before she died. But by then, the medical problems had got to the point where she could no longer live at home. But the big thing, I think the big thing when you're caring for an older person, for a person who can't really live independently anymore, the big thing you have to do, and don't make the mistake I did, is get out and get away from time to time. You need a break. More and more people in their 50s and 60s are finding themselves in that so-called sandwich generation. You're taking care of your children on one hand, but you're also taking care of your parents. So if you're going to do it, look for support services because you have to take care of yourself. Otherwise, that relationship can deteriorate, and you end up being no help to anybody. Philip?
Absolutely, Thomas. And I know that's, speaking with mental health professionals, that's a major cause of stress, right? When you reach that point in your life and, you're caring for yourself, maybe you have children, and then, your parents are aging and you feel like you have to take care of everybody but yourself. So that's definitely a good reminder. EJ, how about you? Is there any story you have of maybe, showing care for someone, an elder to you?
Yeah, no, when I was growing up, my parents, they always taught me that we should obviously respect our elders, especially our grandparents, but also help them around the house. So even when I was young, I remember when my nana, I call her nana, my grandma, she would sweep around the house and I'd see her collect all the stuff with the walis, and before she puts it in the dustpan, it's like a huge pile. So, my dad and my mom, they would teach me, you could help your grandparents. So help your nana by, without her even asking, just go grab the walis and start sweeping. And it's funny because when I was younger, I would try to make as big as a dust pile as my nana would, but I swear I could never get it as tall or that big mound of dust. I guess because she had already probably cleaned before I even started sweeping. But like small stuff like that. That's something I remember as a kid, that my parents taught me, and probably that I would honestly just go teach my kids if I were to ever have children. But that's something I would teach them. Another thing is just, helping them get in and out of, a car or opening a door for them. It's especially with the pandemic, it's been such a long time since I've seen my grandparents in person. And I miss those opportunities where I could hug them, kiss them, and give, and just even open a door for them to help them get into a car, because, their bodies are so frail now. And, I do miss them. And I hope that, after these vaccines get rolling out and, once I'm fully vaccinated, I get to have the opportunity to once again visit them in the Philippines, and even just here in just the next state. I haven't seen them in over a year. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of us, have that, desire to be able to be close to our elderly family members. Andre, how about you? Is there a story maybe you could recount for us of caring for an older loved one?
Oh, definitely. It's not rather a story because I'm currently taking care of my grandma right now. She lives with us. She is kind of like high risk, or fall risk rather. So me, my brothers, and my dad, and all my family members, we take care of her. And going back to what Thomas said about taking breaks, we actually take shifts in taking care of her, preparing her food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, making sure that she's taking all her medications. So definitely, I've gone closer to my grandma. I always try to make her laugh, because going through a rough patch in her life, but together as a family, hope to make her happy every day.
Absolutely, and that's such a great heartwarming story to hear. I guess just as a follow-up question to that, is there a joke or maybe something that you do that never fails to make her laugh?
Yes. So every time I come home from work, every time I see my grandma, I always do give her this peace sign. So she usually does it back with the same enthusiasm. I'm actually trying to have her sign "I love you" in sign language. She does have some difficulty, so we got as far as doing this.
Well,
maybe she could do this better.
I'll teach her that next time. But yeah, it really warms my heart when I see her smile and laugh. It's like a little bundle of joy.
Hey, Andre, I wanted to ask you because for me personally, when my nanay or my Lola, when I talk to her, she doesn't speak English very well, so I don't speak Tagalog very well. But is it easy to converse with her, or like when I talk to my nanay, she can go on and on in Tagalog, and I can understand it, but I can't respond back in Tagalog. So I'm just nodding my head the entire time. Do you have any stories like that? Is it easy to communicate with her?
So actually, I come at a very similar situation. She doesn't really speak Tagalog. Her main dialect is Ilocano. But we do use, I don't speak Tagalog either, but I do know like the basic terms. And she is kind of hard of hearing. So
yeah,
but she understands like some words, like when she wants to eat, she says, "What ulam?" Like, oh, we have adobo, or we have this or another type of dish, and she understands us.
Gotcha. Okay, so but you don't speak Ilocano.
I don't.
Okay. So we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
That's haan.
Eliza, what about you? What can you? Do you have a story maybe that you could share with us?
Yeah, before I do, I'd like to give a round of applause to all these gentlemen here for sharing their opinions and their stories about how important it is to care for the adult members of our family. It really means a lot. As my mother aged, like Thomas, we made sure she didn't have to do household chores, although she would insist I know all of you know this, like your grandmas or granddads, they would insist on still working around the house despite the difficulty that they have. But my mother, she always had, we made sure that she always had someone with her all the time because we couldn't be with her all the time. We had her, a lot of us were far from her. But we had with her like a full-time caregiver, assisting her, walking at the market or carrying grocery for her. And my siblings and I made sure that, like what I've mentioned, if we couldn't be with her physically, we called her as often as we can and asked her what she needed, made sure we updated her about what's going on in her lives. And whenever she has the time, she would visit us one at a time. My siblings, sometimes she's with me, sometimes she's with my sister. But that's how it is. And we always remind her to be careful, when she walk slowly, because she may feel like she's still 25, but sometimes our body doesn't agree with us as much. So that's one thing that could help them. And like what you guys said, just conversing with them and making sure they are seen, it means a lot. It means a lot to them to feel that they are being cared for.
Eliza, I think that's a big thing you bring up there, that the companionship side of things. Phone calls help. Even better if you can visit in person, even if it's just for a short time. But if you do it on a regular basis, those short visits mean a lot. I worked in a seniors residence for about a year. I was an assistant manager there. We had about 300 seniors in our residence, and
wow.
It was independent living. It wasn't like a nursing home. It was independent living, but I've got to say, most of them, I really felt bad for them, because one of the North American phenomena is families are spread out. I'm one of the few who actually came back to his home city. I grew up here in Edmonton. I lived all over North America, though, prior to doing that. But families are spread out, so you're not able to see mom and dad on a regular basis. We're social beings. We need that companionship, and that's something that I don't know how we grapple with that problem of mom and dad are on one side of the country, but you're on the other side of the country because of your career or what have you, and of course, with the number of overseas workers that came to North America, families back on the other side of the world. And they're over here, but it is a big problem. I know my wife still calls home probably 3-4 times a week.
I'm sure she does.
and we go back every 2 years, except because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. And that's a good point too, because even just recently for me, my wife's grandparents actually just visited us last weekend. And so it was just really interesting because, they're they're probably getting up to their late 80s, and, her grandfather can't really climb up the stairs anymore. And so we, basically evicted ourselves from the master bedroom and moved upstairs with the baby and the new baby and everything. And, it wasn't the most convenient for us, but one thing that really just struck me as they were getting ready to leave, they were just so appreciative of, just something as simple as that, to show, not only, taking care of them from the standpoint of, you don't want them to, to fall or to hurt themselves, but, just the simple thing of, opening your home and being, eager for them to visit. Because I think, a lot of times, the opposite side of this, right, is, it can be very stressful. It can be very, you have to be careful not to get frustrated, right? Because these are, individuals that we love and that we care for, but then, it's also hard. And so, just to see their appreciation and have the chance to see, I know we've talked about it a couple of times, we have a newborn at home, and, for them to be with their, great grandparents, their only set of great, grandparents that are left, that was really just, valuable and precious time. So, I guess before we go, we've got, maybe 50 seconds left before we have to outro. EJ, if you want to say a quick greeting to your grandmother or someone that you love.
Oh, man. Yeah, definitely. Right? All right. Hi, Nanay. I miss you, Paul, and I hope I get to see you very soon. Even Nanay Angie there in the Philippines. Chris and I would definitely look forward to visiting you soon, Paul.
And how about Andre?
Oh, hi, Grandma. I'll see you in a bit. So, I love you very much.
Eliza?
I'd like to say hello to my Aunt Linda. She's in the Philippines. I hope you're staying safe. And a shout out to my mother-in-law, Divina, for mothering us the way she does.
Thomas.
And I'd like to say hello and we miss you to my mother-in-law, Nanay. We really, truly miss you. Her name is Lourdes Saul, and she's a regular viewer of this program. I'm proud to have her as my mother-in-law, and we can't wait to get back and see you, and we can roam around the Philippines through Nueva Ecija again with you. So y'all take care, Nanay.
Well, thank you so much, and hello and greetings to all of my family there in the Philippines as well. But before we end, as always, we want to give a round of applause to all of our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers, and especially those that help us in caring for our elderly loved ones in the middle of the pandemic. We appreciate you for all that you do. Well, that's it for today's Eagle News America. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are. We hope you're staying safe, you're staying well, and you're saying I love you to your loved ones. I'm Philip Toledo. We live in interesting times.